Do you need a trademark for that? Sorry, that was probably really intense. Do you need a trademark for that? Let's find out. Hey, welcome back. I'm Christina Scalera from the Contract Shop, and today we're talking trademarks. Trademarks are an area of law that I absolutely adore. I have been working on them my entire legal career. So I started working on trademarks at PepsiCo by managing their international brands, namely Walkers, Lay's, Doritos, Cheetos, and protecting those overseas. So I have a lot of experience working with trademarks, both for big and small brands. I have many trademarks within my own companies, and they're just something that is an awesome tool that you can use to build brand awareness and also to help solidify your offerings and finally to really show up as the professional that you wish you were. Obviously, these trademarks are going to be incredibly helpful for you if you ever encounter someone who's ripping you off or who is impersonating you on one of the big social sites. Let's start by talking about what a trademark is. A trademark is simply something, whether it's a logo or a tagline or a name. Typically, these are what we most commonly see, but it's something along those lines that helps us to identify what it is that we are looking at and who produces that thing. So for example, I'll use PepsiCo because I worked on their chips. If you go into the grocery store and you look at a bag of chips, you know instantly that this is a bag of chips that you enjoy consuming or not based on the giant brand that's plastered across the top of that bag. You don't have to go and flip every bag of chip in the aisle over and look at who made that chip and whether it's your favorite kind of chip or anything like that. You can just really quickly glance through the aisle, look for the right color, and then select the brand that has the brand name at the top, the flavor that you like. You're done with it. So trademarks are really there not for us as business owners, but for consumers to help them identify who is producing things so that they can buy more of the things that they like and stay away from the things that they don't like. A lot of people confuse trademarks and copyrights. We're not going to go into that right now. I'll link to some posts below that help you to identify what's a copyright, what's a trademark. But hopefully you can just remember that trademarks tend to be those like really quick, punchy things that people can see and identify who is making that thing very easily. Copyrights tend to be longer things like a larger photo work or a blog post, something that if you just saw it out of context, you wouldn't necessarily know who made that thing versus a logo. You could probably see like the chevron of the Chevron logo and not have a name or picture or anything attached to it. It could be just a random picture that you see in a field and you would still know what that chevron was referring to. You'd know it was a gasoline station. When do you start to need trademarks? A lot of people get into trademarks preemptively, I would say prematurely, and they don't need them yet as beginner business owners, mostly because they aren't really sure what their offerings are going to be yet. So if you have a really solid portfolio of offerings that are selling really well, you're a great candidate to start looking at creating some interesting and intriguing names for those products and then registering a trademark for them. The thing about trademarks that a lot of people mess up is that they try to register trademarks for really descriptive or generic terms. We want to avoid those. It needs to be something that actually can stand out in the marketplace. So for example, if you are a graphic designer who specializes in launch design and in creating launch assets for someone's online course launch, and you want to call yourself the launch designer, you might be able to get that, but that's going to be so difficult to maintain, which in a minute we're going to see how important it is to maintain those marks. The launch designer is really boring. It doesn't really stand out. If someone were to Google it, they probably wouldn't even find your site. So those are the types of marks that we really want to try to avoid as we're thinking about what and when to trademark. A better mark in that exact example would be something like the Scalera launch designer. Just adding some simple word in there that helps to have your offering stand out will make it a much stronger mark. So for example, in that one, all I did was change it from the launch designer to the Scalera launch designer. And what that did was if people hear the word Scalera launch design, they're gonna Google that phrase and they're gonna find my website because I have a really weird last name. Scalera's not that common. And they're gonna land on whatever it is that I want them to see in those search results. So that can be a really helpful tool. The other thing is if you get ripped off, it's a lot easier to notice because if someone has the scaling launch designer and you're the Scalera launch designer, they've used more than half of the name that you registered for as a trademark, which is probably infringement of some sort and will be I don't want to ever like say something's hard or easy, but it will be a lot easier than if someone was, trying to register the pink launch designer and you have the launch designer. It'll probably be easier to fight that just because those marks are so much more similar. This is getting into really, really nuanced areas of law, and this is why trademark attorneys exist, because if you don't understand why the Scalera launch designer and the scaling launch designer are more similar than the pink launch designer versus the launch designer, that's a really good cue that you probably, if you get into some sort of problem, that you should hire a trademark attorney, because they'll be able to tell you right away like what's similar and what's not. And I can tell you as a layperson, you're gonna get that wrong. Just because, like I said, I've done so many trademarks, literally, I don't even know, like hundreds at this point of either my own trademarks or clients that I've had over the years or friends or whatever. So we've also had a lot of people come through. We have a program that teaches you how to DIY your own trademarks called Trademarks on Tap. So we have a substantial amount of people that have done their trademarks through that. So it's definitely an area that you can handle on your own up until a certain point. We talked about people that already have established offerings and creating some sort of unique name for that. That's a great time to consider a trademark registration for your offerings that have those unique names or those unique taglines. If they don't have unique names or taglines, you can always go for registration of the logo or the submarks that are associated with them. But that might just be a waste of money if you're not using those consistently and throughout your sales pages, and you're not really like a big name in the industry yet. Another great time to register a trademark is if you're already an established business owner and you know there's a name that you want to go after. So for example, I'm creating a mastermind called the Secretly Successful Mastermind. And while I don't have the sales page and I don't have everything up there yet, I do know that secretly successful was a phrase that I wanted to use, so I preemptively registered that as a trademark because I knew that was something I was going to use. And by the way, I'm 6 years into this business stuff, so I knew that this is going to be something that actually does well and takes off just because I know my market really well, I know my audience, I know what they're after, and I'm really excited about this offering because it's something that they've actually been asking for. With that being said, if I was newer, like I was at the beginning of my business, even being a trademark attorney, there were certain things that I went to register and then I wasn't using them anymore, or I just registered them prematurely and then never ended up using them at all. So I just wasted that money registering them, which for me, as a trademark attorney, wasn't a big deal. I just lost the filing fee, which is still not cheap. It's $225 to start with for a filing fee for a trademark. But at the end of the day, I didn't lose all the attorney's fees like you guys might if you use an attorney to register a trademark. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that if you have a name that you absolutely cannot live without, it's either something that's established and you don't want to have somebody else using that name, or it's something that you know is going to sell and it's a name that you absolutely want to use for that offering. Those are two great times to pursue a trademark registration. And here's how you can tell whether or not you need an attorney for that. There's a lot of registrations you can actually DIY. And I actually tried to push most people that wanted to hire me into DIYing their own registrations using my course, Trademarks on Tap, because a lot of times if you are doing what's called a 1B, as in boy, registration, it's also called an intent to use registration. It means that you're not using it yet. And so there's no risk of infringement, which is the big no-no when you go to register a trademark. You don't ever want to register in a federal database that someone else was using a mark that you're now applying for and they were using it before you because you've just admitted in a federal public database that you're infringing their mark. So we want to avoid that. But if we're not even using the word or the phrase or the logo yet, we don't run that risk because there's no way that we could be infringing. We haven't done anything yet. On the other hand, if this is an offering that you have had for a while and you're not sure if someone else is using it, but you want to make sure that you can keep that name or that logo or that tagline, then you'll probably want to hire an attorney to help you with this because, again, they're going to see all the little nuanced areas of law and strategy around registering your trademark that you as a layperson wouldn't be able to see. And the reason why that's important is because if you're already using it, you can run into those infringement issues, which I can tell you get really, really expensive very quickly, and you want to avoid those. A big myth is that if you were using it and someone else came along and they started using it, that, they're the copier and you're the one who's right. Well, yeah, you might be, but in the eyes of the USPTO, the United States Patent Trademark Office, they might have a different opinion, and that other person who registered before you or who was using it in a different way than you, they might have a different opinion than you as well. And both of those entities can really make your life a living hell. That's why if it's important for you to keep using a name that you've been using and been selling things under, it's a great idea to hire an attorney in that case. Otherwise, if you're not using it yet, you can really do the DIY option, save yourself a lot of money, and learn more about the trademark registration process. As a reminder, you can't control other people, which means that you have to do with everything within your control to protect yourself and your business, regardless of what they are going to do out there in the world to you or to your brand. Just to wrap up, registering a trademark that you're already using or thinking about using can help to legitimize your business. It can help to have you stand out as the professional in that sphere. It can make sure that other people are not going to be using your name or your logo or your tagline on their competing or similar offers. And it can also help you to sleep better at night, knowing that you have done everything that you can to protect yourself, regardless of what's going to happen in the world around us. If you're filing as an intent to use, 1B as in boy registration, you can likely get away with a DIY option where you register the trademark yourself. If you are already using the name or the tagline and it would devastate you to lose it, that's a great time to call an attorney and make sure that they are mapping out a proper legal strategy for you in that instance. I hope this has been helpful. If it is, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button below. It would mean a lot to us. If you have any questions, we might be able to answer them in upcoming videos. Just drop them in the comments below. Once again, I'm Christina Scalera from the Contract Shop. It's been so great having you here this week. We'll see you soon.